Hello, you are listening to Underscore, a show by the Chicago Graphic Design Club. I am your host, Christian Solorzano, and on today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Suzie Shin, a designer and an artist, and most recently, an educator. She's teaching typography at DePaul University here in Chicago, and she's going to be talking to us about her migration to Chicago a few years ago. And she's also going to be talking to us about the upcoming exhibition that she's working alongside Rick Valicenti, who is our mutual mentor and friend, and who introduced the both of us to each other. And she's going to be sharing some of that work. So this episode will include some visual information. So make sure that you are watching either on YouTube or on Spotify or anywhere else that allows podcasts to also show video. It's a great episode. It's a great conversation, full of laughter, full of stories, and full of everything that we love about design, craft, type, color, theory, and so much more. So as always, we really appreciate you tuning in. To learn more about us, visit www.chicagographicdesign.club. And if you enjoy conversations like this, we really appreciate you listening and giving us a rating wherever you are streaming this. So thank you and enjoy the conversation. What's up, Suzie?
Hey, Christian.
How's it going?
Good. Good. Feeling good.
Great. I like that we recently met. This is like a new, what I would consider the beginning of a friendship. We were connected by Rick Valicenti, who's a mutual friend of ours.
hmm
And when we met in person a few weeks ago, you mentioned that you did some volunteer work for AIGA Chicago a few years ago.
hmm
And I'm pretty sure you and I ran into each other many times because I feel like we've definitely been in the same circle. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
we're also teaching
And we're
at
also
DePaul
teaching.
together.
Yeah, we're teaching at DePaul, which is really cool. And I remember someone told me that you were teaching at DePaul, but I didn't know who you were, so I looked it up and I saw that you're teaching typography, which is really cool. And
Yeah.
you're like a new teacher. You're
Yes.
still fresh.
Totally fresh.
And how's that been going?
Oh man, I think what is very similar to a personal practice and teaching is that you're thinking about it all the time.
Yeah,
And I enjoy that
yeah,
actually. Like when I'm in a regular job, it's kind of hard for me to draw those boundaries, but with teaching, you're just always kind of like mulling over what would be a fun assignment, what would
hmm
I tweak from last time.
yeah,
So I have a little notebook that I've been putting together homework things, which from a student's perspective, they're probably like, no, but for
yeah,
me, I'm like, they're
yeah.
gonna do a lot of work.
And what's your how do you I'm curious about how you feel after class is over. Do you feel good when class is done? Like after, like for me, I'll give you my example, but and it doesn't matter if I go into class like in a bad mood because of work or anything that happened in the day. After class, I'm always just so I just feel so happy and and like fulfilled. Like I made some kind of difference. And I'm curious
Yeah.
about what your experience is.
Actually, I think because I just finished my first class, my thought is probably, oh, the energy was great that class. So I'm feeling really good about it. But then if it wasn't, then it's in the back of my head again of like, like I wonder
Hmm
how to better engage or like maybe there was something off about today's activities.
Yeah.
So I think I maybe still haven't felt that yet because I'm trying to feel really good about the material, but that might take me maybe another like year or so to keep
Yeah.
working on it.
Do you do a lot of preparing before class?
I think it's a lot of the thinking.
Hmm
So maybe something after class, like I feel lots of relief. I'm like, yeah, you got another like
Yeah.
week at the most until next class. But then it's always just the thinking, And then I feel like most prep is in there. And then once I feel like I'm in a good place with that, I have some good ideas, then it's like the doing doesn't take that much.
Yeah.
So still overall it takes up a lot of my day, but
Yeah.
like quietly in an invisible way.
Yeah. Have you ever just winged a class, like you just like don't have any plan, you just show up and you're just like, all right, we're gonna see what happens today.
I'm not that experienced yet.
Okay.
No, I'm not on that level. I would I feel like even if I did do that, I'd have plan for how I'd wing it. So type A is maybe what you'd call me. So
Okay. Yeah, there's been a few instances where I've like just because of life things, I've just like, all right, I'm not super prepared today, but I know what I'm going to talk about. And usually those classes where I'm like the least prepared are always like my favorite classes for some reason. So,
you don't ever tell them,
no.
today I'm winging it.
No, but I suppose if any of them, any of my students are listening to this, they'll now know that sometimes I do that. So I want to talk about your background. I really love when we met a while ago, a few weeks ago, you gave me these really beautiful postcards.
Yeah.
And I love your use of color and like your compositions and everything feels very analog and counter digital. Like we're so used to digital everything, and it feels
hmm
nice to see something up close that has some detail and
hmm
like a soul to it. So, can we talk about your introduction or how you got into design? Can we talk about that? Do you have a recollection of your first encounter with visual something?
Yeah. Actually, I was one of those like art kids. Like
Okay.
I was drawing for as long as I remember. I probably thought at one point I'd be like a fashion designer, illustrator, like
Mhm.
I think when I was a kid. But into high school, I was really interested in illustration. So I went to RISD thinking that I would be in the illustration major.
Mhm.
But the first year at RISD is like a foundation year, so no one declares a major. And at that point, I felt like if I'm here at art school, which is such a gift, I should learn something I have no idea about. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, graphic design intrigues me, so let's go for it. But once I was in there, I remember my sophomore year, I was like, I chose the wrong, I chose the wrong major.
Yeah.
This isn't me. I felt like I was copying other designers and I just didn't know how to find my own voice in design. And it wasn't until I took a color class with my professor, Suzie Cousins. It's funny because her name is also Susie, no E
Okay.
at the end. But in that class, she had us do a sketchbook and create our own paste papers, our own collages,
Mhm.
and also make like posters that kind of play upon that practice of collage. And I was totally blown away. Wow, there is a world where some designers aren't just Swiss designers. Like
Yeah.
there's so much like life and color and play. And that's when I saw artists like Sister Corita Kent,
Mhm.
which she totally blew me away as well. So much joy and whimsy and like that organic feeling
Mhm.
of the looseness. And then I felt, okay, I can really see myself growing in this way. So ever since that class as a sophomore, I've been collaging and working in that thread because it feels most true to me.
Mhm. And you mentioned being into illustration. What were the things that you illustrated?
Yeah, I thought because I like to draw, I was like, okay, then I should be a children's book illustrator. I mean,
Yeah.
I think what you imagine when you're like 17, 18. Like
Mhm.
I'll draw things for magazines,
Yeah.
or just be known for my drawings. And I still do draw, which is nice. And I've since also been exposed to artists like Ellsworth Kelly,
Mhm.
who did collage, he did sculptures, he did paintings, and he also drew. He has these lovely, like botanical pencil or pen drawings.
Hmm.
So I've just found that like most designers and artists I love also drew and painted, but they didn't have to call themselves an
Yeah.
illustrator or a designer or an architect only. Like they did as they please. I do
Yeah.
think there's almost too much defining in the art world today, maybe.
Yeah. And it's nice that I feel like that when it comes to graphic design, there's this like misconception that all graphic designers know how to draw. And in your case, it's true.
Yeah, honestly, if yeah, if I were to be very honest, like typography is still something that's hard for me to have my heart go to. Like I'd much rather go towards lean on like the illustration side of it
Hmm.
than the type.
Yeah.
So if my students are listening to that one, knowing that I teach type, then that'll be a hard
Yeah.
one.
What is it about type that like has makes you have those feelings?
I think I think something about type that still feels intimidating
Mm.
is just how how much typography is out there.
Hmm.
And like it feels like every project you have this opportunity to choose from a billion typefaces. And
Yeah.
then it's always, oh, how do you do it? And it's fun to explore, but at the same time, there are so many other elements to consider, like the composition and color and hierarchy. And then you could almost get stuck in looking for the right typeface for
Yeah.
maybe the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Most recent, like this year, I discovered justification settings in InDesign,
Yeah.
which I never knew about, and I can't like not think about that from now on.
Yeah. Has Rick gave you his like magic justification
Yeah,
numbers?
of course. I have them written. I have a notebook of just all of his numbers and all his information.
Yeah.
But yeah, typography is to me, I when I was in college, I felt like you needed to understand, you need to be like a master at typography to like just be a designer. And obviously like I'm nowhere near that. But you sometimes I feel like when you see really well done typography, at least for me, it's so humbling because
Yeah.
you're just like, damn it, like they're
No, I saw a lot of amazing details in the magazine that you were working on with
yeah,
Rick.
yeah,
So a lot of that type felt super delicate, which was
yeah.
nice.
And it feels so good when you get it right. You can just you could go to sleep at night and you could have like you just have pure serenity because you know that your type is good.
Yeah, I once designed the some signage for a coffee shop I designed for in Orlando.
Hmm.
And the signage is just the name. It says like Han Coffee. But
Hmm.
when they installed the letters, they
Hmm.
kerned them too tight.
Yeah.
And if I was there in person, I would have said like, "Hey, like loosen it up," but
Yeah.
I wasn't, and now it's forever too tight.
Yeah.
And I think that that does haunt me
Yeah.
many nights.
I saw Justin Bieber just came out. I'm not a fan, like, I don't have any feelings with Justin Bieber, but I saw his album cover.
I know what you're gonna say. It's
Yeah,
the
it's called Swag, and like
yeah.
the kerning with the W and the A is just like atrocious.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's like the SW and then the AG, almost
Yeah.
as like that was intentional.
Yeah. Yes. You can't.
I know. The
So,
1975 is also like that, just to add.
okay. Yeah, there's a Justin Bieber one and then also the Pope's when he passed away, the kerning on his marker.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I probably need to fact check that, but it was pretty bad from what I remember.
It's tough.
But anyways, so going back to you, you're teaching typography, you're like a new educator at DePaul University, and like I mentioned in the beginning, you and we were orbiting around the same circles like years
Hmm.
ago. And you're originally from Florida, right?
Yeah.
Then you went to RISD,
Hmm.
and then you came to Chicago.
Yep.
and because you wanted to work here and you felt like you needed to live here to be able to work here, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So can you walk us through that first impression of coming to Chicago for the just coming to Chicago?
Oh, I think when I was growing up in Florida, like I've always dreamt about being in a city. And when I visited Chicago, it was gorgeous. The sun was reflecting on the water and it was glittering. And I'm like, yeah, I could definitely be here.
Hmm.
I also love the winter, actually, so that's not an issue for me. But just the idea that like a city would have so many small design studios that are doing really amazing things, like that was
Hmm.
super shocking to me. Also because in Florida, everything is really far from each other. You want to
Yeah.
go to your friend's house, it's like a 45-minute drive away.
Yeah.
So you're like, I can't go to my friend's house. But here there is like Thirst and Studio Blue and Some Odd Pilot, and like all those studios
Hmm.
are probably only like a couple of miles away from each other, just to name a few. Bright, Bright, Great, like
Hmm.
so many exciting places for young designers to dream about.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think at that time you would have killed to have an internship anywhere.
Yeah. And then your method was to, you mentioned that you went to Thirst and you brought like physical stuff, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
So I am a little pushy, and that's a good thing and a bad thing in some
Okay.
ways. But I do think for looking for jobs and opportunities, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
I tried to find out any kind of connection that I could. So like anyone who's lived in Chicago, who had any connection to RISD, I tried to say, hey, I'd love to meet up, show you my work, get,
Hmm.
feedback. So met a lot of people that way. I also did send like physical mail to studios, like letters and samples of my work. And I did like cold calls, cold emails. And specifically for Thirst, I had visited, and then since I was able to visit multiple times, I was able to share like, oh, here was what I did for my senior thesis. So I sent that thesis in
Yeah.
like a little box with a couple of items and a booklet over to Bud Rodecker. So I don't
Yeah.
know what he did with it. He should have tossed it at this point, but I think I was hoping to make an impression that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell younger people to be pushy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
To
have
show
to.
them you
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
And I feel like sending an email is like it's everyone's sending an email.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So then you mentioned when you and I chatted a while ago, you mentioned that you went to Thirst many times, but like nothing came of it. And then one day you were working at AIGA event, and Rick walked in, and you finally met him like in person, and
Yeah.
he said he sent you to Columbus, Indiana,
Yeah.
to have like spend a weekend there,
Yes.
and that turned into a book, My Weekend in Columbus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so at that point I had pestered Bud a
Hmm.
lot. I've been to the studio multiple times. The first time I'm like, "Oh, I just love feedback on my work. Please let me know if there are any internships." Then I kept asking over time, I would love to intern here, love to intern here, and he just kept saying there wasn't an opportunity at that time. So then when I was at that AIJ event, I finally did get to meet Rick, and I think Bud was there and was like, "This is Suzie. She's come by and pestered us." And yeah, I just had all this like energy because I was so stoked to see him. And
Hmm.
he was like, I don't remember what he said. I'll have to ask to see if he remembers, but I think we shook hands and he's like, come by the studio. So I was like,
Hmm.
I will again. I'm gonna bring like schlep all my stuff, like bring my sketchbooks that I had from studying abroad in Italy as a
Hmm.
junior. So like I had all these drawings and paintings and kind of a callback to my love of um, doing those kind of things aside from graphic design.
Hmm.
And yeah, on that spot, he was like, I'm going to send you to this place called Columbus,
Yeah.
Indiana. Well, I don't know what that is. But I mean, like some facts and fun facts about Columbus. It's an hour south of Indianapolis. It's considered an architectural mecca. I think in terms of rankings, it's like sixth in the world, which
Hmm.
is very random to think about that this like small Midwest city
Hmm.
is going up against places like New York or Boston or even Chicago.
Hmm.
So I got to go and it was really like an opportunity of a lifetime. And Rick gave me so much confidence,
Hmm.
which I think is very hard to do. If you're working with a young designer, you'd probably want to keep them low and then
Hmm.
build them up slowly. But like the type of person Rick is, he'll just blast you all the way to the top and then try to support you to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with Columbus, Indiana, most recently, you have been working with Rick on an exhibition that opens up on the 14th of August, and the opening reception is on the 16th of August, which is a Saturday. I'm like surprising myself with all these like numbers.
I also thought it was on the 14th, but it seems like the opening is the 15th. So
The
I do have
15th. All right.
to
So,
get back to you. No, I probably told you the 14th because that was on my documents too. But
okay. Anyway, so that's coming up, and that's on. Can you tell us a little bit about that exhibition? Because you shared with me some of the ideas and some of the visuals that you've been putting together,
yeah,
and I've been telling like I've been trying to paint a picture for the people that I'm trying to get to come with me.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I can give like a quick overview and then actually I could just share some images because I think that's also more fun to tell the
Okay.
story. But Rick and I have been working on this since the beginning of the year, so actually not too long.
Hmm.
And it's called Alexander Girard Reverberations Forever. We just landed that name yesterday.
Oh, nice.
So Rick and I both invited six artists each. So including ourselves, we have 14 contemporary works that are going to be in this show. And then something that's really special is that we're borrowing or having things on loan Alexander Girard's work from the community. So like in so many people's homes in Columbus, they just have like a Girard panel that's in their house, or like
Hmm.
they have like one of his dolls in storage, and they're almost just kind of sitting there, maybe, even getting some like water damage or something like that. And now we're able to collect them all and kind of tell this story about how Girard's influence has reverberated and echoed
Hmm.
into modern design now. Um, so let me share, and I'm just gonna pop over to that page. This is the quick overview, a little bit of recap of what we talked about. This is one of the sketchbook spreads that I had from my time in Italy that I brought to Rick. So this is what
Hmm.
Rick saw. And then he's like, "All right, I want you to go to Columbus," where they were having an event called Exhibit Columbus, which is an event that happens every 2 years. And the city then invites architects and designers to do temporary installations. So this was happening at that time. So Rick said, "I want you to go and draw these temporary installations and we'll make it into a book and you'll intern at Thirst." So I was like, this is my dream come true. So these are some of those installations of that time. And then on the right, you'll see like my drawings and the little booklet. It's like very small. It's like that.
Hmm.
Example of these tiles that are painted coming out into this like multi-panel page. And then at that time, so this is 2017, I was in the Bartholomew Li County Library. I forget the official name of that, but I was meeting the archivist, Trisha Gilson, and she had pulled these samples of Alexander Girard's textiles. It's like these are his like color samples. I forget actually because I didn't note annotate at that time where these were from, but I just remember being so struck by the fun in his color and just also the subtlety and just how easy these kind of palettes were on the eye. So
Hmm.
I remember this from like 2017. And since then, Girard has been one of my favorite designers and artists. He's made a pretty big impact on certainly how I see color. These are just some quick things. After I started working at Thirst and interning, I was able to help with designing these bus graphics. And now, if you go to Columbus, you will see like these crazy C pattern buses. But that's more of kind of a general Columbus story thing. But some previews of the things that'll be in this small gallery. So we do have a lot of these kind of installations or framed works and things in different mediums. A preview from Present Future Architects. These were initially designed folded papers and then having no paper waste at all. And then those were cut into wood and then painted, and they'll be arranged on this cool plinth. And then people will also be able to take away a paper to cut it themselves at home. So that'll be really fun. Present Future Architects, they're an architect studio in Chicago. We have clocks. We will be displaying two from the practice called Manual, which is the work of Creighton Berman. And he's like continuing this clock series. So actually when I texted him a photo of a clock in Columbus, he's like, I have the ideas for my next clocks to finish out the year. So I'm really excited to see what new clocks he'll have. We have a 3D printed chess set from designer Jonathan Neshi, who has had a really big impact in Columbus, and he has like a practice there as well. So we have this rendering, and then this 3D printed frame from Urban Lab, another architecture firm here in Chicago. And this is actually one of my works. So here on the left is a collage, and I use a Vintage Life magazine because those have such beautiful, like large printed ads. So they're such a great pull for color. And I really like this kind of gem tones against this tan. And this is probably like a yay size small collage.
Hmm.
So was working on this to become a much larger print. I think this one's 30 by 40 inches. How do you translate something that was done by hand now into something that has almost like mathematical exactness and symmetry to it? How do you still keep the spirit of something that was done spontaneously into something that's now into like vector shapes?
Hmm.
So it's interesting to have to put logic to something after you make it, but I actually think that's a really big part of how I like to work in graphic design, is that you feel it intuitively and then you find out that logically it makes sense too. So that I'm always learning about how I work as I continue with these collages. A little sample of a large print, and this is a typeface actually that was designed by Fabian Forer, I think is how you say his last name. And this one's funny because Rick was like calling the printer and then having them print on a paper that they've never printed on before. It's like a photo backdrop. But
Mm.
he's like, yeah, just run it through. So some people just have that much gravity that they'll tell like a large printing company to do something and to try it, and they'll do it. So
Hmm.
I do want to be like Rick one day in that way. So you never did it before? Well, you're gonna do it now
Yeah.
for me. And I just have a couple more slides here. My brother, he has a 3D printer in Florida. So he's printing out these like large letter forms for me. This is a typeface designed by Juan Pantoa, and he is a Illinois-based designer. And he actually revived this typeface from Girard's La Fonda del Sol branding, which is very cool. That was never made into a typeface. And he's been working on this a really long time, and an opportune thing. Hey, I'm working on this show. oh, you've been working on this typeface for a long time. Let's do something with it. So this is a small preview. It's going to be a lot of letters on a shelf, a couple of La Fonda del Sol's suns that are being printed, mounted to stand upright on the shelf. It's going to be really delightful, I think. And then this last image is showing how Rick and I have been working, which is funny, I think, as graphic designers when we're planning a show. Maybe you think someone would know how to render the space, but we've been working flat like this, and we just use the skew tool to just be like, okay, like that wall is receding and nothing is really exact and mathematical there. But I thought showing a sample of our work page would be fun.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm curious about, so like when you were talking about your recreating your piece with this, I think you said like mechanical precision or exactness. I would love to know like what your process of creating is, because to me, what I've gathered from like just looking through your work is that I imagine it must be very, it probably requires a lot of patience and just what like internal like reflection, or it just feels like very self-reflective. I would say like that's my takeaway, just given that a lot of it has like analog feel. So I'd love to just have you maybe walk us through your process of just ideating and like working with color and like composition and where that comes from.
Yeah. I also do have some extra slides on that, just in case we got on that topic. So
Okay.
I can share a little and then share some images.
Okay.
Something that I really strive for is first like having a plan and a vision, and then trying to create the right circumstances for me to get into a flow state where my intuition is carrying out my vision. So I think that sounds kind of abstract, but it, in the most simplest way, it means that I'll start, if this is for a client or if this is for something specific, I'll say, okay, what size paper or what proportion paper am I going to work with?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll cut that. Maybe I'll cut a couple so I don't have to stop what I'm doing to go back and cut.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, what's the color palette here? Is this something that's going to be black and white? Do I have any limitations with screen printing something? Because right now I'm working on something that's only a 4-color print. So how do
Mm-hmm.
I do that? Or is it going to be printed digitally and I have no limitations? So then I build what my rules are.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I have those all set, I'm like, okay, now I can just go and explore. So it feels like I don't think anyone can really approach a blank page with nothing and then arrive
Yeah.
at like majesty or perfection. I do believe in having a plan, but then probably trying to set yourself up in the best place to just let your
Mm-hmm.
instincts carry you.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what I try to create with my students, is trying to push, hey, you have to plan, but then now your planning is done and now you can explore.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how, if I've been able to get there yet since it was only 1 quarter, but that is will be my long time goal.
Yeah.
So I did pull a couple of projects that I thought showed that fun play between things with the hand. Now it becomes digital, now it's physical again. Some example here of working in a few colors, knowing that something is going to be 2-color Rizzo printed for this calendar that I was designing with a friend named Janice.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go from something that was done in paper. And I like to work in 100% scale if it's possible. Obviously, with larger things, I work in proportion, but typically I like to do 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like something where it doesn't have to get too digital. I'm just editing it to make sure it works well for print.
Mm-hmm.
And here is another example of knowing that it'll be 2-color Rizzo printed again, and then aiming for just a simple like black and white here, knowing that I'd probably bring in some gradients once it's printed in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of also what happens when I'm working in this way, it's so easy to do an image trace or clean it up and create exact shapes that mathematically are like perfect
Mm-hmm.
after I've made it by hand. And moving forward on this one, this is an example where I knew it was going to be in black and white because everything for the New York Times Open, all the illustrations are black and white. So I looked for a black and white photography book so that I would have a variety of textures. And then once it came time to put in the actual images that the New York Times wanted me to put in, then it wasn't so big of a jump from my original intent. So
Mm-hmm.
that I'll go back to here is what it looks like as a feature image on an article. And you can stop me if I'm,
Yeah. No, this is great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And here's another one where obviously it was this piece was going to be too large for me to create at 100% scale, so I'm using it in proportion. And I knew that this one was going to be in stained glass. So in my head, I don't know how stained glass works. So I'm just imagining, okay, my shapes will probably have to be more angular, and then I probably won't be able to have much overlapping. Let's see what happens with this. So the plan ended up that I needed to add these solder lines in between, and there couldn't be this like free open space that's on my design.
Mm-hmm.
But it still didn't mess with my intent, so I was totally fine with it. And of course, choosing colors and having it be actually produced. This is actually one of my favorite pieces.
That is so cool. I love like the reflection like on the ceiling.
Yes, and this I had a friend photograph Malachi Pearson. He is now based in New York. He was in Boston before, but he had brought lights to blast, like
Yeah.
external lights to blast it up so he can get this image.
Yeah.
He was he was amazing for doing that.
Very cool.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I have maybe probably this last one for that coffee shop that I have designed for a few years now. These were going to be some really large scale pieces, like spanning across the coffee shop. So I had originally made these like small ones. They were like this small, but I knew that they were going to be large. So I'm already thinking in that larger scale and planning like this. And these ended up being then like vectorized and then printed on this like toothy textured paper. So it feels like it was screen printed and even though it was digitally printed. So
Yeah.
an example of that here, I didn't even make those edges perfect because I knew that I was going to be recreating them later. This on the
Yeah.
left was not going to be its final form. So I have some extra pieces here that are like patching over what might have been another texture or something. But yeah, stepping from like here to here, I'd like to always seek out for the intent to be the same
Hmm.
and also having that intent strongly in mind from the beginning.
Yeah. And do you think of your work as autobiographical, like for example, these personal projects, or is it merely like visual experiment? What's your personal relationship to the work? Are you in the work, or is it just you're just a producer and you're and it's separate and it's once it's up, it's no longer a part of you, or how are you emotionally connected to this?
Yeah, that's a really fun question. Thanks for that question. I think since I've been working out of college, I've made like quite a
Mhm.
lot of projects that are not a part of this presentation. And I think that's probably what I'm seeking out as an artist. I
Hmm.
do, I don't think that something needs to scream my name if someone sees
Hmm.
it. But I do think as long as I feel like it's authentically myself, I feel
Hmm.
like a project has been a success. So
Yeah.
I would say that all of these kind of projects that I've shown you and probably also everything that has been done for the Girard show, I feel very personally connected to.
Yeah.
And in a way that like it's as simple as just feeling good about it.
Okay.
Oh, I that feels true to what I wanted.
Yeah.
And maybe also thinking of Alexander Girard. Is it delightful? Is it joyful? Is it warm?
Mm-hmm.
I know some design and some art has an intent perhaps to surprise you
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even to shock you.
Yeah.
And I think probably my MO for my personal art is that it brings delight.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Because I do get the sense, like from looking at your work, it does feel very, what word do I, yeah, it just feels very delightful and like very inviting. Like it's not harsh. It doesn't feel alarming. It feels very subtle, but in a very approachable way, if that makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I like it. And I really love this image here showing like the similarities, but also some of the differences. Do you have a favorite?
Of
Yeah,
this
of these
series.
two, like you more into like the left.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never been asked. I think in a very designer way, I'd say I like how it became the one on the right, like the finished version,
Hmm.
just because I know that I could never have arrived at this digital version, the one that was printed at a larger scale. I
Hmm.
would have never created this starting from a digital place. There's just no way that I could sit down and be like, all right, gonna crack out like these 6 illustrations or prints or whatever.
Yeah.
I like to think that I think in collage.
Yeah.
So maybe collage isn't the end goal for me. I'm not a collage artist, but maybe just an artist that primarily uses collage to think. So I'd say, yeah, the invisible in between that happens between these images.
Yeah. And then just going really far back, you mentioned that growing up you were into illustration, but was there something that you saw in your childhood growing up that made you woke you up and just made you follow this path or all this stuff that you're doing?
You mean like when I was like much younger?
Yeah, like before you were making anything or even knew that you were making something.
Yeah. This is actually kind of a funny story. My so I have 2 older siblings.
Mm,
I'm the youngest. And my mom has told us this interesting thing that she did. Moms need to keep their kids entertained.
mhm,
So in a mom's bag, you'll probably have a toy or a snack. And she said that she used to have carry around just like pencils and paper.
mhm,
And if we were somewhere at a restaurant or something and needed to quiet down, she'd get out the paper and start with a couple of doodles. And then she says, "All right, now you keep drawing." So
mhm.
my mom's not an artist in this kind of visual way. I think she probably just wanted to keep us
Yeah.
calm. But she said my older sister was interested in drawing for a little bit and then stopped. And
Mhm.
then my brother would rip holes in the paper. And then he's like, all right, I'm not interested in that anymore. And
Yeah.
for me, I just never stopped
Yeah.
from that moment. And I remember what she'd draw. Like she used to draw this grandma, this like crazy grandma with one line, which I thought
Mhm.
was so interesting. It was a one connecting line of this grandma that had this open mouth or like a flower, I think. And I just thought that was so cool. So I really, I do owe it to my mom for starting that off for me.
Yeah. And then in another, was there ever anything else that you wanted to do or study?
Actually, now after having seen my friends who majored in textiles,
Okay.
and I've seen so much like dynamic career paths come from textiles.
Mm,
Either people end up in sciences or they've ended up in fashion, or maybe it's like home goods design.
yeah.
You could work on developing shoes or clothing for space. Like some of the textile artists I know are doing things that totally blow my mind.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like almost every other major has funneled into graphic design. Like no
Yeah.
matter what someone else did, yeah, I ask what they're doing now, and they're like, I'm a graphic designer.
Yeah. And what are
So
some, yeah. And what are some, is that something that you want to get into at some point? Do you want to, like, you mentioned sculpture being also something that, you mentioned sculpture being something Alexander Girard did, but is that something that you would also like to explore sometime in the future? Anything else?
yeah, I'm actually learning how to sew right now and quilt
Yeah.
because I do think my collages would translate really well into textile pieces.
Hmm.
And yeah, Gerard also he led the textiles department at Herman Miller for
Hmm.
over 20 years, and he designed all these incredible patterns and colorways. So I just feel like in that thread, there's a desire for me to see my work that's in something that's not paper
Yeah.
and something that's more tactile. So I am learning how to do that. I'm like hand quilting right now, and perhaps soon I'll be able to work on a machine. So
Yeah. That's cool. And you also mentioned that you're taking like drawing classes, or you were taking some class. Like, what was it, life drawing, or what was it? I forget.
yeah, I dropped by the figure drawing classes.
Yeah.
It's in this, I forget the name, Platform Studios actually, maybe.
Hmm.
It's in the same building, Attic
Yep.
Press. Yeah, so I dropped by once so far, and I just got some new like oil pastels so I can go back and do some more life drawing or figure drawing. Yeah. So I hope to bring that back since I loved doing that in college.
Yeah. So I'm curious about, like, when you're not making and creating, what are the things that ground you and like just keep you intact? Because all this stuff that you're showing us and that you're talking about, it's a lot of work, and it's just if you're not doing it, you're thinking about it,
Yeah.
and it's just like nonstop. So how do you find that? Just like, what are the qualities or the things that make up you
Yeah,
staying intact?
totally. You are right that I am thinking either doing it or thinking about it.
Hmm.
Another way to say that is that I do have some workaholic tendencies, which I feel like a lot of designers have.
Yeah.
But I love to read. Reading is really big for me because I think it activates your brain in a different way than
Hmm.
if I'm making something or thinking about making something like or even watching things. I love watching movies and getting inspired by visuals like that, but there's something about reading. So I've been
Hmm.
a lifelong reader and cooking is huge. My parents are restaurant owners and chefs. So I I love cooking in silence. I
Okay.
think because there's a lot of similarities between making art and cooking,
Mm.
such as knowing what you're going to make and then preparing the ingredients and then just like following the flow of what you need to do in the right time. Actually, that color class I took that changed my life, Susie Cousins, she was a restaurateur. So
Okay.
she was a chef before she became an educator and a book arts artist, book
Yeah.
artist. So I would say certainly reading, cooking, and then lastly, because a lot of design activity is sitting,
Hmm.
I have had to start working out at the gym, which I've hated for a very long time, but I've come to appreciate needing to do an activity that's so difficult that that's all you think about.
Yeah.
So it gives me a bit of that pause in my brain to
Hmm.
not be planning or worrying or like scheduling or trying to figure out like a solution to a problem in
Hmm.
design. I'm just thinking, can I do this next push up
Yeah.
or not? So right now I'd say it's a good mix of those things.
I hate push-ups.
They're really I can do like one and a half now.
Okay. That's good.
They're really bad.
So reading, what do you read? What are you into reading?
I'm in a book club with some friends, and every time the book is selected by the person who's hosting
Okay.
on that night. So I've read a lot of different things, and I like that practice of getting out of your comfort zone of reading. Right now, I'm reading a book called Jaber Crow, and it's fiction. I really enjoy memoirs though,
Hmm.
just because I think there's something satisfying about reading of someone's extraordinary life
Yeah.
and yeah, knowing that it's real.
Yeah.
So lots of yeah, I would say lots of memoirs. Poetry is hard for me. I wish I was someone that liked poetry, but
Yeah.
I can't
There's
get behind it.
there's a poetry foundation in Chicago. Have you been?
I haven't been, but
Okay.
I do believe that Thirst used to do some design work for the Poetry Foundation.
Yeah, I think they did a few other covers for their
Yeah.
they release these, I think, monthly poetry books.
Hmm.
But I mean, I would recommend you, like anyone listening, to go check out the Poetry Foundation in River North. It is just a beautiful building. It's just gorgeous. And they also offer, at least a few years ago, they probably still do this, but they had a free workshops.
Hmm.
And they're like workshops that are very like beginner friendly, like introduction to XYZ.
Yeah.
And so I found myself appreciating poetry because of some of the workshops that I went there during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So
Were you always interested in writing?
yeah, I've always been into writing, yeah, since I was a little kid. But it's only been like as of the last 5 years or so that I'm like actually writing and like sometimes calling myself a writer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. I
Um,
respect that a lot.
yeah, it's fun most of the time, except when it's not. So I have a few like rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you can't live without?
Can't rapid fire. I honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is my laptop. I
Okay.
probably always have it around just because of the fear of what happens if you lost your laptop or if someone stole it. That's probably my worst nightmare.
Okay. Laptop. And what's your office must have that is not your laptop? Like how do you what's like paint a picture for us. What's your ideal working scenario, ambiance?
Yeah. Sunlight.
Okay.
I would say sunlight is probably the biggest part. I've always tried to create a studio space either in my house or my bedroom. Like I've had
Mhm.
lots of versions of that, but I always end up coming out to work in the living room
Yeah.
or just like anywhere near a window. I
Okay.
feel best that way.
Okay. Cool. Anything else?
It's I need to be near a plug. Yeah, and that's it. I think
So like an outlet, your laptop, and sun.
yeah, that's
That's
it,
cool.
really.
That's cool. In Chicago, what are some of your favorite Chicago spots?
Just like in general.
Yeah, just in general. If someone were to like run into you somewhere, what's like your somewhere that you could always be found?
Yeah, I absolutely love the Garfield Park Conservatory.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite places in the city, mostly because it's so beautiful and it's free.
Mm.
Like how can it get better?
Yeah.
Actually, it can get better because it's right next to a train stop. So it's it hits the top.
Yeah. And it's I love going there in the winter
Yeah.
because it's not winter in there.
Yeah.
Like a perfect escape.
Mhm.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Making makes me happy.
Okay.
If I'm not making, you could tell I'm really gloomy.
Yeah. And then what makes you angry?
Oof. This might be I don't think it makes me look very good, but I really dislike AI at the moment
Okay.
as someone who loves to make with my hands, as someone who
Hmm.
loves to read. I do think AI has been upsetting me as of late.
Okay. Is it all forms of AI or
I think mostly with like creative writing or like reading the news. It feels like everything now that's in the news is written with AI.
Yeah.
And I would say, yeah, I think maybe the AI videos and images, just because I think it irks me that the conversation about copyright and like
Hmm.
where all these images are being scraped from,
Yeah.
it almost feels like that's not the biggest fish to fry at the moment, and people have moved on.
Yeah.
It did feel hot, like a hot topic for a second. Like, how can we continue training AI on stolen artwork? And now we're way beyond it.
Do you remember NFTs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like NFTs came and went. I've been I use AI sometimes for like house things, like just general. Like for example, I took a photo of an AC once and I was like, "Can you tell me like what model this is and how I can fix it?" Stuff like that. But I was using it to get feedback on stuff. You could like design or like writing and stuff.
Yeah.
And overall like everything the feedback was always positive. And I just for a little while I'm like, all right, AI likes it. I must be doing something right. And then I read an article about how AI was like turning people into narcissists
Oh
because
no.
it was like conditioning them to believe that like they're just always right or that there's always something good about anything that they're asking.
Yeah.
And since then I canceled my subscription and I like don't use AI for any kind of feedback thing.
Yeah. It seems like it just can't capture that nuance.
Yeah.
Whereas it is great for those kind of just tasks or things that you would have Googled, but
Yeah. But it's fun for other things. I've been using AI with Rick to create images and I just look at it as a play. Like we're not
yeah.
like the idea is still there.
Hmm.
There's still like a creative idea there and we're just trying to like, see if this thing could live up to our standard and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So,
Yeah.
but yes,
I'm
definitely.
certainly a traditionalist. I'm gonna be one of those people 30 years later. I hated it when AI came out and I still hate it. And I'm
Yeah.
just way behind on the times, maybe.
There is a meme I saw and it was like a parent from the future and their kid was saying to them, "You're so," because like the child was trying to have like, a relationship with like, an AI, and the parent was like, "No, a relationship is between two humans," and the kid was like, "Oh, geez, mom, you're so like robophobic or something." So that'll
We're
be.
headed that way for sure.
And then the other question that I had for you is just like any aside from this exhibition, is there anything else that we should be on the lookout for, or that you want to tease us with, or what's what else is new?
Yeah. I think I am aiming to make a bit of a transition
Okay.
away from graphic design and more so looking for what my next through line is with collage and perhaps a different medium like textiles.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I'm perhaps thinking about how I would present that pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think there's also a lot of conflicting feelings I have with needing to document as something is happening
Mm-hmm.
versus letting what I make be documented later.
Yeah.
Just because it feels there's just too much pressure on here's what I'm gonna do and here's how it's going and how do I have time to both make and document? I don't really
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah. Documenting it, I feel like that's a whole job, and you almost need someone to like follow you around and document it for you.
yeah.
And what is it about graphic design that you're trying to break up with?
I think it's probably been my experience with how graphic design feels more and more pushed towards marketing.
Yeah.
Sometimes in corporate settings, it's even synonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And I, yeah, I guess I don't want to be swept in that current, so I'm trying to swing the other way.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
great. I feel the same way.
yeah.
We're on the same wavelength in
Yeah.
that regard. I think
Which on
many,
the, oh, go ahead.
no, I'm saying I was gonna say, like, I think a lot of people are, but
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I feel that other people are feeling that way too. But when you swing all the way to the other side, would I be introducing myself as a fine artist? I'm not sure. So I do feel somewhere in between, like the commercial world and lightly into the art world.
Yeah. Cool. I look forward to seeing what you do, and I'll be looking out for the documentation that happens after you do the thing.
Yeah, it'll be in like 5 years, I think.
Very cool. It was great speaking with you, and I'm so glad that we connected, and I hope that we run into each other at DePaul sometime because you're teaching in the afternoons, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be maybe 10 to 1,
Okay. So I'm in the evening,
maybe a
so
little
we
after
probably
that.
won't run into each other, but
Ships in the night.
yes. But cool. And if anyone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for people to reach out to connect with you?
I haven't posted anything on Instagram like 2 years,
Okay.
but I probably check it more frequently than anything else. So if they just message me, I will 100% read it, and if it's reasonable, I respond.
Yeah. The people that never post on Instagram always seem to be like the coolest people because they're too
Or
good.
no, in my case, I'm just a lurker. I lurk around. I know what's happening, but I can't be bothered to post anything.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much. Yep, this is a great conversation, and for everyone that's listening, definitely check out the exhibition opening mid-August.
Yeah, it's mid-August is right.
And that exhibition runs through when does it close?
Early November.
Okay, so people have
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much, Christian.
All right, peace out.